This is the next example of the topic of locking out pieces, and it was a game between Geller and Mikhail from the year 1978. So in this position, the first thing that you might see is that the pawn on e5 is a weakness, it is isolated, and white has to be careful not to lose it, but white is lucky to be on the move, and white has a very strong operation here, which was played in the game. White took on c6, bishop c6, and now queen c4. Now we're pinning the bishop and the queen, and black has to defend this with the rook. He played rook c8, and I'm sure that white saw all of this operation already from the start. He took on c6, everything got exchanged. Now rook d7. Rook is always very good on the 7th rank. The bishop cannot move because then the pawn on f7 would fall, so black should play rook e8. Another thing is here that knight f5 would fail to rook takes f5, and if black takes back, white can take this bishop, and 2 pieces against 1 rook is usually a pretty good deal, as it is here as well. So black played rook e8, and now was kind of the key move of this whole variation, which was g4. So again, a perfect example of locking out pieces. We see that the knight on g7 wants to go to f5, where it could become active, and then in connection with h5 possibly, stopping g4, and black would probably be pretty much okay there. But white played g4, and now this knight doesn't really have any way to enter the game anymore, because the bishop cannot move, then the pawn on f7 would fall. The rook also cannot move first, because then the bishop on e7 would be unprotected. Yeah, black doesn't have many active ideas here. He played h5 and simply h3, and it would be a big mistake to play g5, because then knight f5 and black gets this very juicy square on f5 here. So h3 was played, take on g4, and black desperately wanted to create counterplay with b5. He could try to do so with rook c4, but then rook f4, again, all of the fun is gone for black. Even if this rook exchanges, then probably things are even worse. Now black doesn't have any active pieces anymore and is almost in Zugzwang here. So black played b5, but white took. And now black's idea was that after knight takes b5, there is rook takes c2. Even this would be winning, because after knight d6, take on d6, the pawn on d6 is just very strong and will probably decide the game. But white played knight e4, which was also a very decent move, with the big threat that now knight f6 is coming, forcing black to take, and then after the pawn recaptures on f6, the knight on g7 is trapped, which happened in the game. After rook c2, knight f6 check, take on f6, and the game ended shortly after that. Black cannot avoid losing this piece here, and therefore the game is just lost. So a very nice operation from the start, taking on c6, queen c4, and white, I'm sure, saw all of this until this key move here, g4, which was really very important here. Otherwise black would be fine, but g4 simply restricting the knight, and black's position is very, very bad already.